Om Gam Ganapatye Namaha. Kaliyugada Kalpataru. The Fifth Delight. Shri Raghavendra Gurusarvabhauma. Chapter 63. Lakshminarayanas Upanayana. As per Venkatanatha Acharya's invitation, all his relatives and well-wishers gathered at his house for the sacred thread ceremony, Upanayan, of his son, Kumara Lakshminarayana. The atmosphere was filled with joy and excitement, with everyone engrossed in the preparations for the auspicious occasion. Among the gathered relatives were Lakshminarayanas, Gururajacharya, Ramachandracharya, Vasudevacharya, Anantatithacharya. The elders, along with their wives and children, sat surrounding Acharya Venkatanatha and his wife Sarasvathi Amma, engaging in heartfelt discussions. At one point, Venkatamba Devi said, "Venkatanatha, our Narayana, after hearing about your great scholarship and reputation, insists that he must study under you." Hearing this, Kamala Devi added, "Yes, my husband keeps arguing with me daily, saying that we must send our son Kumara Venkatanarayana to study under his uncle Venkatanatha." Then Ramachandracharya spoke up. "Acharya, 9 years ago, during our time in Madurai, Pujya Vijayendra Tirtharu, Guruguru, commanded that my son Krishna should become your disciple. This has yet to be fulfilled." Next, Saraswati Amma expressed her wish, "Swami, after our Chiranjeevi Lakshmi Narayana undergoes Upanayan, he must immediately begin learning the sacred scriptures." Finally, Gururajacharya turned to Venkatanatha and said, "Indeed, Venkatanatha, you should personally teach these 4 young boys." At this, Venkatanatha chuckled and said, "What is it that all the children insist that only I must be their guru?" All the young boys eagerly responded, "Yes, we must also become great scholars like you." With a smile, Acharya reassured them, "Be patient, my dear ones. Just wait for 6 more months, and then I will personally invite you all and begin your lessons. But for now, let us proceed with the feast." On the auspicious day of Magha Bahula Saptami in the year Shri Shalivana Shaka 1543, corresponding to 1621 CE, during the Durmati Samvatsara, the household of Acharya Venkatanatha was filled with divine celebrations. From the early morning, he performed ritualistic ceremonies including sacred purification, that is Punyaha, Nandi, that is ancestral worship, Kuladevata Puja, family deity worship, Navagraha Puja, worship of the 9 planetary deities, Havana and Homa, that is fire sacrifices for divine blessings. After the rituals, he honored Brahmins and Suhasinis, that is auspicious married women, by offering them a grand feast of Mahaprasada. On Magha Bahula Navami, Acharya Venkatanatha and his wife Saraswati Amma sat on the ceremonial platform filled with joy and devotion as they performed the Upanayan, that is sacred third ceremony of their son Kumara Lakshminarayana. According to tradition, before the formal imparting of the Brahmopadesha, that is initiation into the Vedic mantra, the father must ritually dedicate his son to the deities for divine protection. Although in reality, parents remain the primary protectors of the child, the offering to deities serves a symbolic purpose. However, Venkatanatha was deeply troubled by the thought that after taking sannyasa, he would no longer be there to protect his son. This realization weighed heavily on his heart. As the priest began chanting the sacred mantras, calling upon the divine guardianship, "I offer you to Agni for protection. I offer you to Surya for protection. I offer you to Chandra for protection," Venkatanatha's heart sank further and he thought, "Once I take sannyasa, you will be an orphan. The gods alone will truly be your protectors. There is no one else." As he offered his son to divine care, tears welled up in his eyes and streamed down his cheeks. The onlookers, unaware of his inner turmoil, mistook his tears as those of emotional attachment. They assumed, "Poor Venkatanatha, even though he knows that offering his son to the deities is just a ritual, he cannot control his emotions." Seeing the father overcome with grief, the entire family and assembled guests were also moved to tears. After this, Acharya Venkatanatha initiated his son into the Gayatri Mantra. At that moment, Sri Sudhindra Tirtharu Swamigulu arrived, and Gururajacharya and the other elders received him with great reverence, leading him to a honored seat. Venkatanatha requested the revered Guru to bless his son by accepting the traditional Guru Pada Puja, that is, ceremonial worship of the Guru's feet. But to everyone's surprise, Swamiji first expressed his own desire. Acharya, before Lakshminarayana performs Pada Puja, I wish for you and your wife, the virtuous Sarasvathi, to perform Pada Puja to me first. Upon hearing this, tears flowed from the eyes of the great Guru. The realization struck Venkatanatha deeply. This would be the last duty he could perform with his wife as a householder. Understanding the profound significance of this moment, he too was overcome with emotion, and tears streamed from his eyes. For Saraswati Amma, however, this was a moment of boundless joy. Unaware of the impending separation, she cheerfully and reverently performed Pada Puja to the Guru along with her husband. Little did she know that this would be the last time she would perform a ritual alongside her husband. After this, Swamiji performed the sacred Mantra Mudra Dharana and bestowed his blessings and consecrated Mantrakshata upon Lakshminarayana. He then graciously accepted the boy's ceremonial Pada Puja and imparted the Guru Upadesha, that is, spiritual teachings. Following the rituals, the Pala Puja, that is, final offering, was conducted, and all customary offerings were presented to the Guru. Swamiji then blessed Acharya Venkatanatha, Saraswati Amma, and Lakshminarayana, and before departing, gifted them valuable presents as a token of his blessings. Later that day, auspicious items such as sandalwood paste, flowers, fruits, betel leaves, and dakshina, that is, monetary offerings, were distributed among the guests. By midday, a grand feast was organized for the assembled Brahmanas and Suvasinis. With the successful completion of all rituals, the Upanayan ceremony concluded joyously. On Ekadashi, as Saraswati Amma returned home after visiting Sri Matha, Sri overheard some women whispering among themselves, "It seems that Venkatanatha will soon take sannyasa. That's why he hastily performed his son's Upanayan." As the whispers spread from one woman to another, the painful truth reached Saraswati Amma's ears, striking her heart like a thunderbolt. She felt as if sharp needles had pierced both her heart and her ears. It was as though her very life force had been ripped away. Her eyes overflowed with uncontrollable tears, streaming like an endless river of sorrow. It was as if those tears were a sacred offering, preparing her own body like fuel to be consumed in the fire of her husband's impending separation. Overwhelmed with grief, Saraswati Amma somehow managed to suppress her emotions, but her heart was in turmoil. That day, she somehow silently endured the unbearable pain and completed her daily household duties, yet her soul trembled with agony. On Dwadashi afternoon, after distributing gifts to all the guests who had attended Lakshminarayana's Upanayan ceremony, Acharya Venkatanatha sat conversing with his elder brother Guru Raja, and brother-in-law. That evening, Saraswati Amma, Kamala Devi, Lakshminarayana, and the children set out to visit and offer worship at the temples of Sri Kumbeshwara and Shri Sarangapani. At that moment, Acharya Venkatanatha gathered everyone and solemnly revealed, "Sri Sudhindra Tirtharu has chosen me as his successor and will bestow upon me the sacred Paramahamsa Sannyasa initiation." Turning to his wife, he added with deep emotion, "Saraswati, from now on, the responsibility of protecting and guiding our son Lakshminarayana rests entirely with you and our family elders." Upon hearing this unexpected and momentous declaration, everyone was struck with a mix of astonishment and joy. Elder brother and brother-in-law expressed their joy. His brother and brother-in-law exclaimed, "Venkatanatha, how blessed you are! You have been chosen to rule over the great Vedanta empire of Sri Madhvacharya. This is the very prophecy that our father and Sri Vijayendra Tirtharu had foretold. It has now come true." However, his elder sister Venkatamba Devi could not contain her emotions. With tears streaming down her face, she spoke with a trembling voice, "Venkatanatha, this is an extraordinary event. You are indeed a Mahapurusha, that is, great soul, and Through you, our lineage will attain immortal fame. But her joy was quickly overshadowed by sorrow. Yet, when I think of poor Saraswati, my heart shatters. She is so young, having barely crossed 20 springs. How will she endure such a great shock? Her voice choked with grief. Her heart is as delicate as a flower, and you are her very life, and her boundless devotion to you, her unwavering love. How can she bear the agony of separation? Venkatanatha, your blissful little home is now turning into a place of sorrow. If I cannot even bear to imagine it, then what will become of Saraswati? What about Lakshminarayanas' future? How will he grow up without his father? Overcome with anguish, she broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Seeing his sister so distraught, Acharya Venkatanatha consoled her. Akka, if you too lose heart, then who will comfort Saraswati? It is she who concerns me the most. To her, there is nothing beyond my love. For her, the entire world is empty without me. Brother, sister, brother in law, you must help her accept my Paramahamsa sannyasa and give her your support. Hearing these words, his elder brother, brother in law, and sister immediately refused. No, no, Venkatanatha, this is impossible for us. It is your duty to convince her, not ours. Realizing that the difficult task lay upon him, Acharya signed and resolved within himself. Fine, I will take this upon myself. May the Lord transform her heart and grant her the strength to accept this. Then, wiping away his own silent tears, he turned to his brother in law and spoke with firm resolve. Brother in law, tomorrow I must leave for Tanjavur with Guru Shri Sudhindra Tirtharu. On Falguna Shukla Pratipada, I will receive the final consecration for sannyasa through the sacred Phalamantrakshata Anugraha. Following that, in the royal court, my ascension to the Vedanta empire will be formally consecrated. Brother in law, you must accompany me. Turning to his elder brother, he said, Brother, you and sister in law must remain here and care for Saraswati. From now on, this home, our son Lakshminarayana, all our responsibilities belongs to you. Falling at their feet with folded hands and tears streaming down his face, he pleaded, Please grant me your consent for sannyasa and bless me. His brother, sister, and brother-in-law could no longer hold back their emotions. They embraced him tightly, their eyes overflowing with tears of both pride and sorrow. In that moment, they all knew that they were witnessing a rare moment in history, the ascension of a Mahapurusha into the renounced order of life. Venkatanatha's final conversation with Saraswati. That evening, Saraswati returned home after visiting the temple with Kamala Devi and others. Venkatamba, though suppressing her sorrow, greeted her sister-in-law with a forced smile. That night, as the household settled into silence, Venkatamba privately revealed everything to Kamala Devi. Venkatanatha is about to become the head of the great Vedanta empire. On one hand, Kamala felt immense joy, but on the other, the thought of Saraswati's impending suffering filled her with deep sorrow. She struggled between these two emotions. Later that night, Saraswati busied herself in some work until Venkatamba and Kamala Devi forcibly sent her to rest in her husband's chamber. Inside the chamber, Venkatanatha sat on the bed deep in thought. As Saraswati entered, he looked up, forcing a smile. Come, Saraswati, why did you take so long? Taking her hand gently, he made her sit beside him. For a while, they spoke about Lakshminarayanas Upanayana. Then, summoning great courage, Venkatanatha prepared to discuss the inevitable. Observing Saraswati's weary and sorrowful face, his heart filled with compassion. He tenderly ran his fingers through her hair, struggling to speak. Finally, with great difficulty, he whispered softly, Saraswati. Hearing her name spoken in such a solemn tone, she lifted her gaze and looked directly into his eyes. What is it, Swami? Venkatanatha, holding her cheeks in his hand, hesitated for a moment before speaking. Saraswati, will you grant me a request? She lowered her head, replying softly, Swami, if it is a request that a wife should fulfill for her husband, then yes, I will. Venkatanatha took a deep breath, his voice gentle yet firm. Saraswati, the welfare of the world, the prayers of the righteous, the aspirations of the learned, and my own spiritual path, everything depends on your answer. Her heart tightened as she listened. She responded with quite intensity. Swami, you are my world. Lakshminarayana is my dharma. You alone are my learned scholars. Your love is my highest spiritual achievement. If your request aligns with them, then I will grant it without hesitation. Venkatanatha signed, sensing her rising apprehension. Saraswati, why do you doubt my every word today? She smiled faintly, but her voice trembled. It is not said. Excessive love breeds suspicion. Venkatanatha shook his head. Saraswati, just answer me plainly. Will you fulfill my request or not? Her hands trembled slightly as she lowered her gaze once more. Swami, I am your humble servant. To obey your command is my duty, my purpose, and my very life. He smiled sadly. Saraswati, such unwavering devotion is admirable. But if you remain steadfast, even after hearing my request, then, she interrupted, growing anxious. Swami, am I the kind of woman who would defy her husband's words? Venkatanatha gazed at her tenderly, acknowledging her loyalty and purity. No, Saraswati, you are the embodiment of virtue. To you, my words are like Vedic scriptures itself. But her breath caught. But what, Swami? Venkatanatha hesitated, then said solemnly, what I am about to say might cause you pain, Saraswati. But if, even after hearing it, you can smile and fulfill my request, then your devotion will be unparalleled. Tears welled in her eyes. She shook her head firmly. Swami, you are my very God. What do I owe that is separate from you? Without you, life itself is meaningless. To die at your feet is my greatest fortune. Venkatanatha quickly placed his hand over her lips. No, Saraswati, do not utter such ominous words. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she folded her hands. Oh my Lord, your command is my life. Just tell me quickly, what must I do? And in that moment, the final chapter of their life together had begun. The final consent, Saraswati's ultimate sacrifice. Hearing her husband's words, Saraswati collapsed as though struck by a thunderbolt. Her delicate heart shattered. Her lips trembled, struggling to form words. Tears poured like an endless stream, and she gasped for breath in an unbearable storm of sorrow, agony, and despair. Sannyasa, my lord, is this truly happening? Venkatanatha's voice was calm and unwavering. Yes, Saraswati, sannyasa. She broke down, sobbing. Oh, cruel fate! Sannyasa, this is my end. She threw herself at his feet, clutching them tightly. Swami, my lord, I cannot live without you. Venkatanatha lifted her gently, his voice filled with compassion yet firm with resolve. Compose yourself, Saraswati. She looked up, her eyes burning with sorrow. Compose myself, Swami? When poison flows through my veins, when my very soul is drowning in grief, how can I be calm? You, my loving husband, are saying these words, Swami. When you took my hand in marriage, you vowed, Dharmecha, Artecha, Kamecha, Naticharami. What happened to that promise? His voice was grave, yet kind. That promise has been fulfilled, Saraswati. I have never strayed from Dharma, Artha, or Kama. As Bharatiya, the purpose of marriage is the continuity of our lineage. With Lakshminarayana's birth, that duty is complete. He will carry forward our family name. My worldly obligations are fulfilled. She shook her head violently. Then, what of your love? Swami, what of the love we shared? Venkatanatha sighed deeply. That love has now found its highest form, Saraswati. It no longer binds me to this world. It has become devotion, flowing entirely towards the Supreme Lord. I am waiting only for your consent, Saraswati. Saraswati wept uncontrollably. Must I be the one to say it? Must these lips utter the words that will separate us forever? Venkatanatha's heart ached at her suffering. He placed his hand on her head, his voice soft yet unyielding. It is inevitable, Saraswati. I know your heart. I know your pain. Yes, I know that you will not survive this grief. But for the good of the world, for the glory of the Dharma, you must give your consent. If you understand the greatness of the sacrifice, your sorrow will turn into pride. The world will honor you as a woman of highest virtue, as one who gave everything for the sake of righteousness. Saraswati, listen well. My decision is final. Nothing can change it. Only your permission remains. So now, my beloved, tell me, with all your heart, do you give your consent? Tears streaming down her face, her voice broken with grief. She gazed at him with hollow eyes. What can I say, Swami? Your decision is made. I am but a helpless woman, your humble servant. You are my master. You are free. Yes, Swami, I will not stop you. She collapsed at his feet, pressing her forehead to them. Tears flowed endlessly, washing over his feet like a sacred ablution. Venkatanatha watched in silent anguish. The wife who had been his shadow, the woman who had lived only for his love, the purest heart that had ever loved him, had just set him free. And in that moment, the sacred bond between them was severed forever. Venkatanatha sighed deeply, his heart weighted with sorrow. He gently stroked Saraswati's hair and back, trying to console her in every possible way, but no words could soothe her pain. They spent the entire night drowning in tears, sobbing, grieving, letting go. By morning, Saraswati's tears had dried, not because her sorrow had faded, but because she had no more strength left to weep. As the sun began to rise, Venkatanatha struggled to free himself from her desperate embrace. Swami, my lord, do not leave me. With a final heart-wrenching cry, she collapsed into unconsciousness. Venkatanatha turned away, unable to bear the sight. As he stepped out, he saw his sister and sister-in-law standing outside, weeping silently. His eyes moistened, but he quickly wiped away his tears. He spoke just one sentence, "Take care of Saraswati," and walked away. At 9 in the morning, Ramachandra Acharya arrived to escort Venkatanatha to the matha. The household gathering around him, encircling him in grief. Saraswati, overcome by agony, suddenly ran to him. She fell at his feet, clenching them with all her strength. Swami, my lord, do not make me an orphan. Our son, Lakshminarayana, has no one but you. O my lord, how has your heart turned so cruel? Will you truly abandon your devoted Dasi? Swami, I cannot live without you. Take my final namaskaras, because I will not survive this. She collapsed into his feet unconscious. Everyone wept. Venkatanatha knelt beside his son, who stood there wide-eyed and trembling. He ran his fingers through the boy's hair, then took his tiny hands and placed them in the hands of his elder brother, Guru Rajacharya. From this moment on, his protection is in your hands. As a single tear rolled down his cheek before he could stop it. As Saraswati lay motionless, as tears flowed from every eye, Venkatanatha turned away from the only life he had ever known. With Ramachandra Acharya and Lakshmi Narasimhacharya by his side, he walked away towards the matha, never to return. Hari Om. Om Sri Krishnarpanamastu.